Hello? Russia launched almost 70 drones at Ukraine on Sunday night. About 50 of them were Shahids. Defense forces neutralized 34 Russian drones of various types in the north and east of Ukraine. Strikes were recorded at 9 locations, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. One person was injured as a result of Russian strikes on the Sumy region. Over the past day, the Russian army shelled the region 65 times. More than 30 settlements in 12 communities came under fire. The Sumy and Shastka districts suffered the most. The Russians attacked the region with glide bombs and drones, and also shelled the area with multiple launch rocket systems. Explosions were also heard at night in the Chernihiv region. Russia struck one of the enterprises with drones. A fire broke out, which rescuers have already extinguished. And yesterday during the day, the Russian army attacked an energy infrastructure facility in Koryokivka. In total, over the past day, the aggressor country shelled the region 44 times. More than 70 explosions were heard in the region. The Odessa region also came under fire. Despite the successful work of air defense, debris from downed Russian drones damaged private homes and caused fires. Rescuers have already extinguished the fire, reported the head of the regional military administration, Ola Kuiper. According to him, there were no casualties. The number of people injured as a result of yesterday's Russian strike on Dnipro has risen to 13. Today and tomorrow have been declared days of mourning in the city for those who died. 3 people were killed as a result of the Russian attack. Let me remind you, the Russian army struck a residential high-rise in Dnipro the day before. Apartments in 2 entrances of the building were destroyed, from the 2nd to the 6th floors. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has urgently called for a meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors. During yesterday's massive attack, the Russians deliberately targeted substations supplying the Khmelnytsky and Rivne nuclear power plants. It's impossible to call this accidental, as these were well-planned strikes, emphasized the head of Ukraine's foreign ministry. Russia is deliberately putting Europe's nuclear safety at risk. We urge the IAEA Board of Governors to be convened urgently to respond to these unacceptable risks. We also call on all countries that value nuclear safety, including China and India, to demand that Russia stop its reckless attacks on nuclear energy facilities, which create the risk of a catastrophic incident. There needs to be global pressure to force Moscow to stop its nuclear blackmail. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Telegram. The backup power line has been restored and reconnected to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is temporarily occupied by Russia. This was reported by IAEA Director Rafael Grossi. This was also confirmed by Ukraine's Energodom. They emphasized that the 330 kilovolt line is functioning properly. The Russians, however, are deliberately not connecting the plant to the power supply, continuing their blatant disinformation campaign against Ukraine. Let me remind you, a week ago Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that Russia had deliberately disconnected the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant from Ukraine's power grid and was preparing to reconnect it to its own energy system. A series of explosions rocked Taganrog, Russia, and a major fire broke out at an electrical substation. Part of the city was left without electricity and water, according to local social media groups. And as reported by Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, there is information about some interesting developments in another of Russia's energy sectors, which, I quote, drop by drop will yield results. Last night, the Russian city of Voronezh was under attack. Residents reported explosions and air defense activity. Afterwards, city residents began to complain about power outages. According to the publication Astra, the attack caused a fire at the local thermal power plant. The Voronezh Thermal Power Plant No. 1 supplies heat to 4 districts of the city, as well as more than 1,000 businesses. Agents of Atash carried out a successful sabotage operation on the railway near Simferopol. The partisans struck a key logistical artery of the Russian occupation forces in the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia directions. As a result of the operation, train traffic was halted, which directly disrupted the supply of ammunition, fuel, and equipment to the Russian army. The Russian resistance movement destroyed 4 military logistics facilities in Volga and Bashkortostan. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. At the turn of October and November this year, agents set fire to the equipment of 3 communication towers in the city of Sterly Tamak and near Vologda, a railway relay cabinet. The systematic disabling of such facilities significantly complicates the military logistics of the Russian occupiers, the main intelligence directorate emphasized. The European Union is tightening visa rules for Russian citizens and, in most cases, is prohibiting the issuance of multiple entry visas. This was reported by the official representative of the agency, Markus Lammert. According to him, the purpose of this decision is to strengthen checks for Russians and reduce security risks for Europeans in connection with Russia's war against Ukraine. Meanwhile, in Germany, it is believed that Russia could attack a NATO country at any time. Kristina Dombrovskaya will tell us more.
After the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the EU had already made it more difficult for Russians to obtain visas by suspending the visa facilitation agreement with Russia, and the processing fee jumped from 35 to 90 euros at once. Now Russian citizens will also stop receiving multiple entry visas, said European Commission Representative Markus Lammert. In other words, Russian citizens will have to apply for a new visa every time they plan a trip to the EU. The decision will allow for thorough screening of applicants and reduce potential security risks, the European Commission explained.
The Commission has agreed on stricter visa issuance rules for Russian citizens. This is due to increased security risks caused by Russia's unprovoked and unjustified aggressive war against Ukraine, including the use of migration for military purposes, acts of sabotage, and the potential misuse of visas.
The tightening of visa issuance rules for Russian citizens is also a response to ongoing flights of so-called unidentified drones over EU countries and acts of sabotage on European territory. This was reported by the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas. Traveling to the EU is a privilege, she stated.
Starting a war and expecting to move freely around Europe is hard to understand. The European Union is tightening visa rules for Russian citizens amid ongoing drone violations and acts of sabotage on European territory. Kaja Kallas, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, on the social network X. Just in November, 6 so-called unidentified drones were once again spotted near a NATO airbase in Belgium. Air traffic at the airports in Brussels and Liège was suspended. The appearance of the drone in Belgium is likely connected to the issue of using frozen Russian assets held in Euroclear, suggested German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius.
These actions are intended to create uncertainty and fear in Belgium. Don't you dare touch the assets, otherwise it can't be interpreted any other way.
I believe we need more counter-drone measures. That's exactly what I'm proposing. I have a concrete plan. We are also very active on the international stage. We have many good neighbors, NATO allies, and all of them are trying to help us.
Similar incidents have repeatedly occurred near military facilities and airports in a number of European countries, including Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Poland, and Spain. Meanwhile, Latvia will deploy autonomous drone interception systems on its eastern border in the coming months. This is a development by a Latvian company. The interceptor, using artificial intelligence-based data, can track and neutralize approaching aerial threats.
The interceptor drone uses radar data to search for targets in the air. It catches up to these targets and sends a request to the operator for interception confirmation, after which the system autonomously pursues the target and detonates its warhead in close proximity or kinetically strikes the target. The key feature of this device is that it is autonomous and significantly cheaper than the targets it pursues.
The head of NATO warned Russia against a potential attack on one of the alliance's member countries. The response will be devastating, Mark Rutte emphasized.
The Russians know that our response will be devastating. If Russia or anyone else attacks Romania, they know that Romania will be supported by all NATO countries. There are 31 of them, and all of them will defend Romania with the full collective power of NATO, the entire fleet, air force, and both air and ground forces.
Meanwhile, Estonian President Alar believes that Europe should treat Russian aggression as a different kind of war and be prepared for new forms of hybrid threats. Kristina Dombrovskaya for Freedom TV channel.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.